9 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Looks like the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center is moving that level 2 out of 5 at risk for severe weather tonight, closer to I-65. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another measure of inflation out this morning. It shows the cost of things we buy before it hits store shelves rose more than expected in February. Makes it even more likely there'll not be an interest rate cut until summer at the earliest. Here's a new development about TikTok. Reports say former U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, under former President Trump, putting together a team of investors to buy the social media platform. Just yesterday, the House passed a bill that could ban the app unless its Chinese Communist Party-run parent company ByteDance sells it off. Stephen Portnoy says next up's the U.S. Senate.
The Democratic chairman and Republican ranking member of the Senate Intelligence Committee say they both favor fast action on the bill, fearing national security harm, while TikTok continues to be owned and controlled by a firm based in China. The app CEO, Shou Chu, vows to keep fighting.
We will continue to do all we can, including exercising our legal rights.
The bill aims to force China-based ByteDance to sell TikTok within 6 months. But experts say a divestiture probably wouldn't solve all the app's security problems.
Stephen Portnoy in Washington. Also in Washington this morning, more federal regulation coming down from the nation's capital.
The EPA says all commercial sterilizing facilities that use ethylene oxide, or ETO, must install new pollution control technology and monitor it constantly for leaks. Long-term exposure to ETO has been linked to a number of types of cancer. The group Earth Justice says nearly 14 million Americans live within 5 miles of facilities that use ETO.
Daria Albinger says ethylene oxide is a gas that's used to sterilize things like medical equipment and spices. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning. It is Chris Hand. Hope you are having a fantastic Thursday. Mason Fleming producing. What up, Mason?
What up, Chris? How you doing today?
I'm good. Mac
always good to
Morey's enjoying some sports ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him. Ken Weaver in the newsroom. What's up, Ken? We got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to start with the 2024 election. You know, the big one, right? We've had some developments en route to the election in Georgia. You know, you can't really talk about the election without talking about the court cases that the weaponized DOJ has thrown in front of Donald Trump. Well, the Georgia judge in the Trump RICO case has thrown out 6 of the 13 counts for lack of detail. He said, as written, these 6 counts contain all the essential elements of the crimes, but fail to allege sufficient detail regarding their nature of their commission. So the Fulton County Superior Judge, Scott McAfee, dropped 6 counts in the Georgia criminal election interference case against former President Donald Trump. It's funny, you know, we see that Trump is having the DOJ weaponized against him, and at the same time, we hear Democrats like Kamala Harris going out there and gaslighting the American public like she did yesterday, saying if Trump gets in office, he's going to weaponize the DOJ.
And that is not all. If he is reelected, the former president has openly said he intends to weaponize the Department of Justice against his enemies.
I'm sorry. This is projection, and it's what the Democrats are currently doing. And we're seeing these cases get knocked down, or we're seeing judgments against Trump that everybody looks at and go, it doesn't pass the smell test. The late, great Phil Valentine would call it bovine scatology. You know? But the judge in the Georgia case, he's throwing some of these counts out, which is excellent to see. Hopefully, we can see Fani Willis thrown out of that case as well. Still waiting on the judgment from that. They said it would be this week. You never know. We could be into next week before we hear about this. But if it happens today, we'll keep you posted. The Georgia judge also tosses the find the votes phone call charge in the Trump case. That's a big one. You know, it was alleged in the conspiracy case against Trump that he was telling Raffensperger, the Secretary of State in Georgia, to manufacture the votes, to create votes where none existed before. That's pretty much, you know, the largest element in this case, the phone call between Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and then President Trump, which happened in early January 2021. It formed the basis for the criminal charges against Trump in that RICO case. Well, that was thrown out with those 6 counts, which is fantastic. Fantastic. Meanwhile, in another court case, because there's just so many with Donald Trump, because clearly he's just an evil right-wing conspiracy theorist that must be stopped at any and all costs. Trump is asking a New York City judge to pause Alvin Bragg's falsified documents case until SCOTUS can rule on immunity. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hear those arguments on April 25th, and now Trump is seeking to delay the falsified business records case brought forth by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg until the Supreme Court rules on the presidential immunity case, and that's in a separate criminal case, which is brought forth by special counsel Jack Smith, Hack Smith. We like to call him on the Chris Hand Show. Hack Smith. According to the Los Angeles Times, Trump's lawyers asked the judge on Monday to adjourn the trial indefinitely until the argument in the January 6 case is resolved. Trump says he's immune from prosecution for official acts that he did while in office. His lawyers argue that some of the evidence in the business documents case overlap with his time in the White House and therefore constitute official acts. Trump's lawyers say part of the evidence in that Manhattan prosecutors plan to introduce in the trial includes a social media post made in 2018 regarding money paid to lawyer Michael Cohen, which they say constituted official acts. We'll see what happens. I don't ever see anything in New York going in Trump's favor. Being New York at all. It's just not how I see it going down. Meanwhile, as all this is going on with Trump, the president's son, we're hearing news on his criminal cases. It's just a hodgepodge of criminal cases, right? Hunter Biden, it was announced yesterday, is going to face trial in June on federal gun charges. That'll be fun. He's going to go on trial for felony gun charges in less than 3 months. The proceedings are set to begin either the week of June 3rd or June 10th. It's going to be a hot summer. The president's son, of course, was accused of lying on his background checks to purchase a gun. He claimed to not be a drug user when, in fact, as he basically snitched on himself in his own book, he was hooked on the hard stuff. According to Bloomberg, the Delaware U.S. District Court Judge Mary Ellen Norica said during a telephone hearing that the start dates are tentative and that a number of details have yet to be worked out before a final decision will be made. She also noted that there are still motions to toss the case that could be considered. You never know. He is a Biden, right? So there's absolutely a chance that the case could get tossed. Also, in Hunter news, you may remember that he didn't want to sit for a private deposition because he wanted to testify publicly. That was his whole argument, right? That's what he wanted. I want to do this in public so everybody can see what kind of a sham this hearing is. Well, now he's refusing to testify publicly. Yep. Hunter Biden on Wednesday refused to accept the House Oversight Committee James Comer's offer to publicly testify before Congress on March 20th. But again, Hunter said he would only testify in public. He refused to appear for a closed-door interview in December. You remember that? He did the big press conference outside the U.S. Capitol. Here I am, Mr. Chairman. I'm taking up your offer. Well, he said, I'm here to testify publicly. Well, now he doesn't want to. In a letter to Comer on Wednesday, Abby Lowell, which is Hunter's lawyer, said, the invitation is, and I quote, an attempt to resuscitate your conference's moribund inquiry with a made-for-far right-wing media circus act. I must convey my surprise by your hasty request, he continued. After that 6+ hour deposition on Friday, February 28, 2024, I thought even you would recognize your basement impeachment proceeding was dead. Lowell also stated that Comer's request for a March 20 hearing conflicted with Hunter's hearing in California, where Hunter pleaded not guilty to federal tax charges in January. The tax charges did not include Foreign Agents Registration Act violations, the FARA violations, and it did not implicate Joe Biden in any wrongdoing. Comer said Hunter would not show for a hearing because he confirmed compromising evidence against Joe Biden during his closed-door deposition. We'll see what happens. Honestly, I think that this impeachment stuff's probably dead in the water. I don't think we're going to see anything like that before November. And I'm not necessarily blaming Comer, and I'm not saying that there's not a lack of evidence, but I saw a headline from the Daily Mail. It said, Speaker Mike Johnson says he hasn't had time to do a deep dive in the evidence when asked about Joe Biden impeachment vote as the Republican push stalls after 6 months. He said he hasn't had time to do a deep dive into the evidence. Mike Johnson, the guy who was elected as Speaker of the House on October 25th, 2023, hasn't had any time to do a deep dive on the evidence. 6 months into the Joe Biden impeachment inquiry, Mike Johnson says he just hasn't had the time to do a deep dive into the evidence. That's frustrating as all get out, right? Do you not find that frustrating? Hopefully, maybe they're holding out to do it closer to the election to really try and hurt him. But I almost feel like that could backfire and invigorate the Biden base? Is there a Biden base? The vote blue no matter who crowd?
I wouldn't doubt it. There's probably so many people who are just diehard devoted to it that no matter what is said on the news, they're like, you know what? I've been this for so long, I'm going to stick to it regardless of what happens.
I mean, maybe. Johnson told reporters during a news conference at the annual House GOP retreat at a resort in West Virginia that he had been too busy to dive into the evidence. He said, to be very frank with you, very honest and transparent, because I've been so busy with all my other responsibilities, I have not been able to take the time to do the deep dive into the evidence, he disclosed. Is this not one of the top priorities if you are the Speaker of the House, you are the de facto leader of Republicans in Washington, D.C., we're looking to you to advance this impeachment, and you say that you haven't had time to do the deep dive? That doesn't feel like you're doing your job. He also added, yet what has been uncovered has been alarming. How alarming? Alarming enough to not do a deep dive.
Yeah, not enough to inform us of anything important, just to kind of keep us at bay, I guess.
Yeah, I want to like Mike Johnson. He seems like a good guy, but I mean, as it stands, we have a 2-seat majority. Does he not want to do it because we would need basically everyone on board to pass the vote to impeach the president? Does he not want to get egg on his face like he did with the first Mayorkas impeachment vote? Possibly. I just don't understand the thinking. I really don't. James Comer recently gave himself an exit strategy, criminal referrals, recommending prosecution to the Justice Department. He said this week Republicans hauled in ex-special counsel Robert Hur to testify, and he revealed Biden had willfully retained classified documents, but he did not believe a jury would find the evidence to convict the president, a well-meaning, elderly, and forgetful man. So the GOP impeachment investigators, they have testimony to suggest Hunter was sought after because of his last name, and Joe was seemingly more aware of the business deals than he told people. But, you know, Democrats boast, and other Republicans have started to admit, I say Republicans, you could say rhinos, that there's no smoking gun to prove evidence of a crime. This whole thing is just frustrating. Maybe I should be mad at myself for expecting Republicans would do anything. Maybe that's where I went wrong. You know, maybe I thought we have a new Speaker of the House. Maybe something's going to get done. But Mike Johnson's been too busy to even look at the evidence. Absolutely frustrating.
He's probably just scrolling through TikTok at this point, trying to find what he can ban it through on this time.
Yeah, let's focus on TikTok, right?
Yeah, the real threat.
No, I mean, the real threat is sitting at Pennsylvania Avenue. 100%.
Absolutely.
100%. And also, you know, the White House and the Biden surrogates, they've been on the media trail trying to tell everybody that the economy is good. Spoiler alert, the economy is not so good. Janet Yellen did an interview with Fox Business. I got the audio from it. I want you to take a listen because Janet Yellen, she doesn't exactly give anyone confidence that things are going to get better anytime soon. And you need to hear this. We'll play it on the way for you. It is 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It is that time of the year where it's cold, it's hot, it's cold, it's hot. If you don't have your system serviced the best way, you should the Busy Bee way with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Because if you don't have them serviced that way, you're basically waiting for a problem to pop up. It's that time of the year. The problem could be your heat. The problem could be your AC. Don't wait. Be proactive. Keep your unit working in the most efficient way possible, the Busy Bee way, whether you need that annual maintenance or if you've been kicking the can on repairing or replacing a plumbing, heating, or air system, call the guys who I trust, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. If you do need to replace that AC because it went out at the end of last season, you're not going to find a better value on replacement systems. Busy Bee will offer up to 12 months with no payment, no interest, with approved credit. That's 12 months, no payment, no interest with approved credit. It pays in so many ways to sign up for that annual maintenance too. That way you don't have to replace your system. Maybe you can get a little bit more life out of it. Maintain it the Busy Bee way with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Plus, you can always get those added rewards and savings by signing up to be a Beehive member. Being a Beehive member comes with the perks, front-of-the-line service, thorough annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air system. No overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. It will pay for itself to be a Beehive member. And they always will come see you on Saturday with those convenient Saturday availability hours, so you'll never be waiting over the weekend to fix your heat or your air. Busy Bee, they're your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833 or online at busybeehvac.com.
Former President Trump in court again for a pivotal hearing in his classified documents case. A U.S. Senate committee starts looking at whether it's time to switch Americans to a 32-hour work week. And new development in the Israel-Hamas war. These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm reading you guys on the Members Nutrition text line. Hilarious. 4200 said, Chris is disappointed. Better go get Gates on the new speaker. Yep. Fingers crossed, right? if anybody can do it, it's Gates. Brewster talking about the impeachment process. I said, we're running out of time. He said, what are you talking about? There's plenty of time to impeach the guy. Once he gets voted out, we can still impeach him in January. This is true. Nothing I like more than wasting tax dollars, right?
Money well spent.
Who wouldn't want to waste a few $1 million of taxpayer money? Crazy.
Got a problem? Throw all of our money at it.
Listen, it works, right? It's working. 7170 said, these days, Chris, Republicans are nothing but snowflakes. Yep. Checks out. I also got a text here from, no. I got one that said, Jason said, thank goodness that Mike Johnson was able to get all the votes together for a TikTok ban. Yep. He can
all
get
united under one roof.
He can get everybody to agree on a TikTok ban. And then my friend Mike on the Members Nutrition text line said, I have $720 million billion. Do you think I should put in a bid for TikTok?
Become like a co-owner or like taking over?
I think he's just going to be the CEO with that kind of money. Told him I'd be his media advisor for just a cool $1 million a year.
Yeah. Just a casual.
That's it. Yeah, that's nothing.
I can get a percentage of that $1 billion.
He could hire me as his media advisor for that without owning TikTok.
Yeah. I'll sweep his floors if you'll do that.
Yes, seriously. All right. So if you remember, Janet Yellen told us inflation was transitory, right? Transitory. In fact, the entire Biden administration gaslit us for what felt like years on the inflation crisis. And we're going to play the audio from Janet Yellen's interview on the way, but I felt like it would be important to just remind you guys how they gaslit us about how inflation was not a thing.
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
It will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down.
Oh, then it'll go down.
No one's talking about this great,
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. It's highly unlikely that's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems.
The number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of inflation.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
That's how it started. We'll play the audio from Janet Yellen to let you know how it's going after Ken Weaver's newscast, which starts right now.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and now the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center is moving a level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather tonight, closer to I-65. Got the full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Former President Trump is at the Florida courthouse for today's pivotal hearing in his classified documents case. And a Senate committee in our nation's capital is set to look into whether it's possible to rethink what Americans consider a standard work week. The concept of 40 hours dates back to the 30s and the Fair Labor Standards Act. Now the Senate's HELP Committee, that's Health, Education, Labor, and Pension, set to consider 32 hours with the same pay. New developments in the Israel-Hamas war. The Israeli army says it will evacuate more than 1 million Palestinian civilians to central Gaza ahead of a major assault on Rafah Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claims his victory of Hamas depends on reaching that border city of Rafah, where the terror group has 4 intact battalions, or about 4,000 fighters. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
In 2021, you did say that inflation was transitory. Do you regret saying that now?
I regret saying it was transitory. It has come down, but I think transitory means a few weeks or months to most people.
Yeah, to most people. Transitory means a short period of time. That was Janet Yellen saying, I probably shouldn't have said transitory. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Janet Yellen giving an interview to Fox Business about the state of the economy. Do you regret calling inflation transitory? Yeah, probably. Probably not a good look. But is inflation coming back? Janet Yellen was asked. She says no via a word salad. But she doesn't exactly exude confidence.
But if you go back and look at month over month, December, January, and February, it showed an increase of inflation. Is inflation coming back?
Well, look, inflation is down almost 2/3 from the high it reached in 2022. And the trend is clearly a favorable one. I wouldn't expect this to be a smooth path month to month, but the trend is clearly favorable. That said, President Biden's top priority is addressing the issue of high costs that concern so many Americans.
Oh, it's his top issue. It concerns so many Americans, doesn't it? I know it concerns you. I know you're feeling it in real time. And I'm sorry, the poor leadership of Joe Biden has resulted in this inflation crisis. So month over month, December, January, February, we're up on inflation. Prices have not come down either. And this is definitely a leadership issue. Just to the south of us in Argentina, Javier Milei, he was inaugurated 3 months ago. Their inflation has gone down every single month. It was at 25.5% in December, 20.6% in January. They're down to 13.2% in February. Plus, Argentina just recorded its first budget surplus in 12 years, $589 million. This kind of stuff frightens the globalists because you get a good leader in there. This stuff can be under control relatively quickly. Unfortunately, we have the forgetter-in-chief, Joe Biden. And these prices have not come down. So what does Janet Yellen say to these families dealing with these high prices?
Prices are higher than when President Biden came into office. What do you say to the family that's having to use their credit card to pay for food or possibly could lose their home because of debt that they've accumulated with the higher prices?
Well, I think the single most important metric to judge how households are doing is their spending power, their real wages or real earnings, namely their earnings adjusted for inflation.
Well, let's look at their spending power and their wages. Wages are going up, guys. That's what the Biden administration keeps gaslighting us saying. Wages are going up. Faster than inflation, mind you. Way faster, right? But the prices aren't coming down. The prices are worse than they've ever been. Worse than they've ever been. Fox Business highlighted these prices and how bad they are.
You heard the president the other night say he inherited an economy on the brink, but we're making great progress on inflation. So we thought, well, let's just look at some of the numbers and figure out where we were and where we are now. Start with your primary residence, whether you're renting your house or owning your home. You're up 20% since Biden took office. That's like a mortgage payment that goes up $700 a month, Ashley. So we're talking real money there.
Yeah, that is real money. Rent, mortgage up 20%. 20%. I mean, listen, I almost moved to Arizona for the job with Turning Point USA. Because of interest rates, if we had bought a house dollar for dollar that was the same, we would have been paying maybe $10,000, $15,000, upwards of $20,000 more per year just because of the interest rates, which they had to hike to slow the Biden inflation crisis. We were locked into a low rate here in Tennessee by the grace of God. And I look at the rent prices now, and it's like, geez, It costs more for a 2-bedroom apartment to rent now than some homes locked in at the interest rates I have. It's insane. It is unsustainable. And it's not just rent prices that are way up under Biden.
Now, if you've got any money left over to eat away, your costs to go eat out are 21%. I took the family out for lunch this weekend. I had to try to figure out which kid ordered caviar, Ashley, because I was like, how did this bill get so high? Food at home is not much better. It's up 21% as well. So whether you're out or at home, you're paying a lot. Now,
over 20%, whether you're eating out or buying food at home. Over 20%.
Let's say you want to make yourself a chicken sandwich, Ashley. Your chicken costs are up 21%, actually 26%. Sorry, it's even worse than that.
We stopped buying chicken, full disclosure. Like, chicken is the new steak. You know what I mean? The price on chicken is so high. Chicken is the new steak in a Biden economy.
Since Biden took office, you're going to put it on some bread. Your bread costs are up 30%. Since Biden took office. And that probably is the kind of food you're eating, Ashley. But if
30% up on bread since Biden took office. 30% on bread.
For those of us with a sweet tooth, let's talk sugar and butter. Sugar costs up 44%. Butter up 27%. I know you're probably cutting down on that, but some of us aren't.
Sugar, butter, everything. I was talking with Ken Weaver off the air the other day about this. It's like, thank goodness my wife knows how to cook. Because, you know, we can still whip up pancakes from scratch, right? But there are families out there who, you know, and I understand it, when you get, strapped for time, you go to the pre-made waffles, you go to the pre-made pancakes. Like, I totally understand that. And we've been there, too, on mornings we're strapped for time. But, like, if you can't cook in this economy, and you're buying these prepackaged foods, you're really feeling it. Really feeling it.
And it makes life less fun when you got to pay so much for that. So here's the point, Ashley. You've got a president who can't seem to convince people that things have gotten better, even though he thinks the data's on his side. But when you really look at the data, you get why people say life is just so unaffordable and they don't have confidence in what the president's doing on the economy right now.
No, how could you have confidence on the economy? And they send Janet Yellen out there on Fox Business to try to restore confidence in the economy. They say, you know, people are feeling these high prices. What do you have to say to families? What do you have to say? We have record credit card debt in this country. People are buying groceries on credit.
So under President Biden's policies from the month he came into office, January of 2021 to today, prices have gone up 18.5%. I think people are feeling that, and you're seeing that in the polls.
Americans are seeing the costs of some goods that are important to them, like rent, having increased.
Some goods that are important to them, like rent, increase. Some Americans are seeing things that are important to them increase, like rent. I don't know. How high would you rank that on things that are important?
She's like a reptile.
She's a lizard person.
There's just no there's no empathy. There's no it's a disconnect.
She's a lizard person.
Yeah, that doesn't.
We don't need to think about things like that.
Yeah, I was like, that frustrates me so much. Saying that the fact that my rent went up $400 this past year for our new lease is not something I love to look forward to on the top of my
listen,
priority
that's
list.
Something that only some Americans are worried about.
Yeah, that's just some of us.
Only some of us.
The plebes, the peasants.
Yeah.
Let them eat cake, Janet Yellen says.
Many prices are well off their highs.
Many prices are well off their highs. Here's the thing.
Man, you're triggering me, dude.
Listen, you know what? Like she could be factually correct on this, but the fact that they're still so exorbitantly high compared to where Biden came into office, that it doesn't matter. Like, if the high for an item was $6, When Trump was in office, I was paying $2, and now I'm paying $5.50. Your words mean absolutely nothing to me. Nothing.
The numbers tell the story, and it's ridiculous.
Yep. The numbers tell the truth, and the Biden administration lies.
Gasoline, eggs, other things, TVs.
TVs.
I love the way she says eggs.
Listen, it blows my mind. It's like people are worried about their energy bills, right? Gasoline, food costs, and how much it costs to live places.
Yep.
And she gets on TV and goes, hey, TVs are down.
Yeah.
The extreme disconnect of this woman. Oh, and spoiler alert, the TV was made in China. You shipped all the jobs overseas.
There you go.
Used cars and trucks that people buy are well off their highs. And look, as I said, President Biden knows that high costs are a burden to many American households, and it's his number one priority to do what he can to lower costs.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Biden is he's on the job. He's on the job. So this interviewer on Fox Business, he pushes back. He's like, all right, but the credit card debt. We're almost at $1 trillion in credit card debt.
But consumers spending record amounts on credit card in order to just survive for basic things. They can't afford basic items. How long do you think this credit card debt accumulation can continue?
Well, credit quality remains excellent, and
credit quality actually remains excellent.
Charge-off rates, delinquencies have moved up slightly, but from historically low levels.
Historically low levels under who was the last guy in office?
Who was that?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
We'll think about it. We'll remember. Hold on.
Most households, even including the lowest income households, saw their overall financial position improve. During the pandemic, their average level of cash balances went up, their overall finances improved. Now, over time, they've spent some of that buffer of savings.
They spent that buffer of savings.
Yeah.
Because of the inflation crisis. You took away the buffer with the rise in the cost of goods and rent and food and energy and gas.
And particularly lower income households are borrowing again on credit cards. I see that as a normalization rather than a disturbing new trend.
Lower income households putting more on their credit cards is a normalization, not a disturbing new trend. Listen, the peasants, they put these things on their credit card as they do as peasants do.
Yeah.
The earth is healing, says Janet Yellen. It's healing. Do you not find this woman infuriatingly condescending when she talks? Like, it must be so nice to have the bank account that Janet Yellen has, where she doesn't have to even think about these things. Oh, some Americans buy used cars, and we've seen those prices come off of their highs. I've never bought a used car. I've never bought a car. My driver deals with that. This is who they trot out there to try to say everything is fine.
Yeah. What you're feeling, that's not real.
No, of course not. The gaslighting of America continues. And as we head towards 2024, these prices are not going to come down because the Biden administration is ill-equipped to deal with the crisis at hand. And what did Bill Clinton used to say? It's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. That's what Americans are feeling, and that's why more and more Americans are going, I'm gonna go vote with Orange Man. Mean tweets, cheap gas, 2024. That's where most Americans are going to be looking. Seriously. But he's a racist. I could actually afford to clothe my kids.
And feed them.
Yeah. Are you kidding? It's 9:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pat in Shelbyville, Mike in Atlanta. Hang on the line, guys. I'll get to your calls next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, you heard us talking about the economy. Things are crazier than they've ever been. Hey, it's Chris Hand here for Paul Winkler Inc. Now is the time, more than ever, to make sure that you are taking your financial future into your own hands. You can't just wait for someone else to do it for you. But maybe you don't know where to start. Well, I have the starting point for you. It is with Paul Winkler Inc. You probably know Paul. He's been hosting the Investor Coaching Show for like 20 years. I love the show. I used to listen to it on WTN before I started working here. We air it every Saturday from 3 to 6. But you may not know how Paul got his start. He actually didn't even start the show until after he spent time studying under an economist who went on to win a Nobel Prize. He's got that history. And he's an avid collector of financial planning designations. He has up to 8 now. My wife and I, we work with Paul. We like Paul. He's honest with us. He breaks things down in a way that we can understand. And when I first started here at WTN, his firm was the one I wanted to work with. And I'll tell you why. They hold themselves to the highest level of fiduciary status. That's why I have to tell you I get paid to do these commercials. Paul makes me tell you that. Also, his team does nothing on commission. Paul makes them do nothing on commission. And it gives you that peace of mind so that way you know when they're trying to make decisions for your financial future and point you in the right direction, you can be 100% sure it is for you and not for them because nothing they do is on commission. I like that. I really do. And they'll educate you along the way so that way you learn something and you never have that uneasy feeling of blind trust. They will look at your whole financial picture. It is going to be unique to you. And then, after they do all of that, they'll help you make some decisions. It's time to take your financial future into your own hands. Set up a 15-minute phone call with Paul Winkler's team today and start having your financial future planned for. Go to paulwinkler.com. The website, one more time, paulwinkler.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Real quick, Pat in Shelbyville wants to talk inflation. What's up, Pat?
Hi there. I want to give you two reasons why the left still believe that it's not an economy under Biden. I was told that it's because companies are gouging. It has nothing to do with Biden or his policies. It's just the companies. They're the ones that are doing it. Then it's also still Trump's fault because the Biden economy has not and policies haven't kicked in yet.
Yeah, no. But Pat, I think you missed that one step, and I appreciate the call. The policies have kicked in yet. It's just that Americans aren't smart enough to understand it. That and also there was another reason, right? It was they're not telling the story well enough, right? It's the messaging. The Biden administration needs to work on the messaging. I appreciate the call, Pat. More of your calls next at 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center has increased the level of risk for severe weather tonight in Middle Tennessee to a level 2 out of 5. But that's mainly for everyone along and west of 65. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. SpaceX
5, 4.
Successfully launching its Starship rocket today from Starbase in Cameron County, Texas. Its 2 previous tests ended in explosions. This one, SpaceX hopes, will take humans to the moon. Back to Earth, where the rate of wholesale inflation ticked up higher than expected in February. That's the cost of things before they hit store shelves, and makes it even more likely another interest rate cut isn't coming until summer at the earliest. And former President Trump arriving at the Florida courthouse for today's pivotal hearing in his classified documents case. Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has more on what the judge will consider during today's proceedings.
Donald Trump is saying he had the authority when he was the commander-in-chief before he left office to do what he wanted to do with these documents. And the special counsel's office position is that that's just not the case. And we just need to find out, does Eileen Cannon buy that particular argument? That's the fundamental issue that we'll be watching for today.
Multiple reports say former U.S. Treasury Secretary under former President Trump, Steven Mnuchin, is putting together a team of investors to make a bid to buy TikTok. Just yesterday, the U.S. House passed a bill that could ban the communist-run social media app unless the company ByteDance sells it off. The U.S. Senate expected to take up that bill next week. And I just got a news alert from one of the television stations that we follow there in Kentucky. It looks like General Hospital actress Robin Bernard was found dead in a field behind a business in California earlier this week. That was on Tuesday. This, according to the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. She started on General Hospital back in 1984. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We're talking about the inflation that's happening under the Joe Biden presidency. Janet Yellen on TV on Fox Business doing her best to try to say, things are good. Except she comes off as a lizard person with no emotion or empathy, and it's really disturbing. It really is. We got a couple people waiting on the line that want to talk about it. Matthew and Dixon, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Matt?
Hey, good morning, Chris. Hey, all these policies have done nothing but just make the rich richer. I mean, we're pumping money out there. The companies are the beneficiaries. The top 10% own 90% of the stock market. That's who's benefiting from all these stupid policies.
Yep. Wait,
Plain and simple.
Say that one more time.
I said the top 10% own 90% of the stock market. So the more money that we pump into the system goes into these stocks and stuff, it's not going into poor people's pockets. It's going into the rich people's pockets. The more money that we send out these checks, just like you said, the TVs, who cares if the TV's cheaper? Like I said, it's made in China. We're not making any jobs like we were under Trump. We're doing the same thing that we've been doing in the past. We're shipping all the jobs to overseas, and the reshoring that is going on has done nothing but just make companies richer. Look at NVIDIA, from $150 to $1,000 on the stock price. Who benefited from that?
Well, Nancy Pelosi did.
You damn right about that.
I mean, listen, I hear where you're at. I think that there's also a point to be made about the energy costs. Canceling oil leases, not drilling, sending the message that we're going to be dependent on other nations for energy and gas has made our gas prices skyrocket. That trickles into the economy faster than anything. If it costs more to get the goods to a store, the good costs more in the store.
Absolutely. Like I have a pretty good job and I work regular. But you know what? I can't afford an $80,000 truck. I can't afford a new truck.
I hear you, man. Listen. I work two jobs. I cut corners to send my kids to private school. We are as middle class as you can get. I would love a new truck. That's not in the cards.
And then we talk about, they just bumped out another $1.5 billion on paying back student loans. You know what? I did just like you, Chris. I bit the dust. I worked my overtime, and I paid for my kids to go to college out of my pocket. Is anybody going to reward me for that?
No, of course not.
You're going to reward somebody that gets an artsy degree and is $200,000 in debt and is not productive in the workforce whatsoever, and that person is going to be rewarded for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, but let's be honest. We need more people with gender studies degrees. And we should be just tickled pink for the privilege to be able to pay for that, Matt.
Absolutely. Hey, you have a blessed day.
Hey, you too, man. I appreciate you. God bless.
God bless.
Mike in Atlanta wants to talk about the Argentinian president, Javier Milei. What's up, Mike?
Hey, well, I wanted to tie a whole bunch of things together because you mentioned the Speaker of the House. You talked a little bit about Trump and inflation. And Milei, I want to say he spoke at CPAC and talked about how the globalist stuff came to Argentina to die. So if we just take the difference between Trump and the Speaker of the House, Trump is a businessman, and a businessman's job is to solve problems and make a profit and run his business and benefit the customer. A politician's first job is to get reelected, don't solve a problem because, well, then what are you going to run on next year, and stuff as much money in their own pocket as possible just in case they don't get reelected.
Yep.
The inflation, I mean, all of this ties in with, like, I don't have my tinfoil hat with me, but, it all ties in with these globalist elites' goal of you'll own nothing and be happy. If you look at the Cloward-Priven method, they're pushing as many people towards being dependent on the government. And, with the stimulus checks, it whet people's appetites of, hey, the government gave me this free money and I can do this and maybe I could stay at home and I get free college. And then when the system collapses, they'll be so desperate to get the lights back on, get food back on the table. I mean, I'm a truck driver. I don't make a whole lot of money. I do better than some, but, we're paycheck to paycheck. We're trying to get to where we can have a few chickens, get eggs. We want to grow some meat chickens. We grow a garden every year. God bless them. My parents and grandparents were Eastern Kentucky hillbillies that taught me how to garden and can vegetables and stuff like that.
Hey,
So
thank the Lord for that.
I'm doing better than I deserve. That's like Dave Ramsey says. But if people don't wake up, we're going to lose this country. I mean, we've got 33,000. I think y'all or one of the other show hosts had a local congressman on the air a couple of weeks ago that said there were 33,000 fighting age Chinese males in this country.
Yep.
That we caught and then we released. The thing is, Border Patrol only catches about 10% of those that don't want to get caught.
Well, and I saw a report on Fox News where they had 1.8 million known gotaways. And it's like, okay, well, that's great that they got away. But what does that mean for the ones we don't know about?
Well, I mean, I have what I call Mike's top 5, and I'll run through really fast for you. Number 1, know where you're going when you're done. Have your spiritual health and taken care of. Number 2, live as debt-free as you possibly can and have a cash emergency fund at home because, well, if the power goes out, your debit card's not going to be worth squat.
Yeah, the ATMs aren't going to be working.
Right. Have, if you go on ready.gov, they already tell you since before 9/11, have 2 weeks worth of food. There's a reason for that. But my minimum's 30 days worth of food because, well, I want to be at least double what my neighbors are. So I'm not having to fight people for biscuits at the store or rice or bread or anything. As much food as you can stand to put back.
Yep.
That doesn't require refrigeration. Number 4, learn the skills necessary to protect and provide. Too many Americans focus on the protection part, which where I live in Atlanta, it's necessary, but if you can shoot that deer or that rabbit or whatever, do you know how to salt cure the meat and make it? Do you know how to preserve it so that it lasts longer?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of skills that our grandparents knew that we've lost. They're out there. You were talking about young people that don't know how to cook and are having to learn. You can learn anything you want to know if you search long enough and specifically for specific. Let's say I want to make beans and rice. You can go on YouTube and learn all of that stuff for free. You don't have to buy Teddy Daniels, disaster survival book. All of that information is out there for free. And this is coming from, I'm a 25-year firearms instructor and 15 years of civilian survival instructor and, 5 years of alphabet soup and survival instructor. Now, I just hope that COVID has woke people up to the fact that these politicians want power. We saw the abuses. They don't care about whether or not there are very few of them. I would say the America First candidates do care about their constituents and want to make a better place for their kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. It's a short list, and it's such a crazy thing. It's like good people want to be left alone, and there are those others that are just drawn to power, and it's
I'll tell you what,
it's scary.
You just made a statement. Good people just want to be left alone.
Yep.
And one of my Vietnam veteran mentors told me that, Michael, don't you worry. when the people who just want to be left alone get fed up, this is going to be over real shortly.
Well, and it's
I don't like to think about what he was talking about.
No, and I don't like to think about that either. And you know, I'm still hoping for the results we want in November, but I'm at the point where it's like it can't get here soon enough. And you had talked about, you know, the Speaker of the House, the president's like the Speaker of the House can't even get a conversation with him alone. There was an interview on Jesse Waters last night. Mike Johnson was on there. He's like, they won't even grant Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, a meeting one-on-one with Biden with nobody else in the room. It is terrifying where we're at.
Absolutely.
Hey, I appreciate your call, Mike.
Educate your kids on the Constitution and get them to read their Bible every day.
Amen, man. Amen. Yep. I totally agree with both of those things. Hey, appreciate your call, Mike. Let's go to Matt in Smyrna. He wants to talk finances. What's up, Matt?
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
How we doing?
Man, nice to talk to you again.
Hey, Matt, you're always welcome on the show, Matt.
Hey, man, let me tell you something. Here's what happens, and this problem that we have today is a 50-year problem that has come to has blown up in America's face. We are the most talented, highly skilled, highly technical country, and yet our citizens are not educated. We are not educated to go into the workforce to command money. When your money is your God, especially in this country, it stunts the growth. And when you have year after year after year after year, the masses are going to start complaining.
Yeah, well, and I agree with the lack of education, and I would point to the leftists taking over the public school system and systematically dumbing down education to the point where third graders can't read. It's disgusting and it's terrifying.
Are you really serious? Are you, Chris? You got your parent. No, you do not let the state educate your children. You educate your children.
I totally hear that. Unfortunately, we're now on generations on top of generations. I don't let the state educate my children. I don't. Right, I'm blessed to be in a scenario where I can cut corners and make a private education happen. If I couldn't do that, we would homeschool. But and I'm a strong advocate of homeschooling. Unfortunately, in this economy, they've taken that option away from a lot of people, where you have to have two incomes to make ends meet. To be able to live paycheck to paycheck for a lot of families, you need two incomes in this economy.
Exactly. But here again, when you have babies raising babies, when grandmother is 36 years old, you have a problem. Like I said, all of this is tied in.
Well, but when you have grandmothers that are 36 years old, you're talking about probably families without fathers in the household, and the government incentivizing that through public benefit programs and welfare programs for decades.
Well, okay, but again, those programs were instituted for one reason and one reason only, is to keep the citizens down and not progressing and keep money in their pocket. That's what they were doing. So there's a financial benefit for the top to do that to its citizens. But again, we have to go back and we have to take personal responsibility.
Listen, it's like a weird thing. It's like I tend to agree with you. The government doesn't want what's best for us, and it's up to us to take care of ourselves. Matt, are you sure you're not a conservative?
Look, and here's the bottom line. I'm both. I am a liberal and I'm a conservative. There is not that I might have more conservative views than liberal views, but if you start taking my rights away, I'm going to complain. We are both. I can't take all of your liberties away and you not complain. Just like you're complaining about conservative values. The point is that the 1% wants to take the put these issues for the 99% to fight over every day.
Matt, in 2012, we saw a movement on the left and on the right. You had the Tea Parties that were against the big bank bailouts, and then you had Occupy Wall Street that was against the banks. What happened was the media and the globalists in control took that movement and decided to turn it from a class war into a race war. And you saw an uptick in media coverage of racism happening basically across the Western world. And that's the dynamic that we fell into because people were starting to rise up against this kind of stuff.
Okay, but when you're talking about, and you know what, maybe another topic, another day, I need to know what you always say woke. I'm going to push back on your woke comment.
Matt, tomorrow's Agenda Free Friday. Let's do that tomorrow. You call in tomorrow, all right?
I got to go to work, man. I got to go make this money.
That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I know everybody's got to make money in this economy. Joe Biden's screwing everything up for everybody, Matt.
Are you kidding me? Oh, wait, hold on a second. When I say I go make money, I didn't say I didn't have money. That's a difference. I didn't say I didn't have money.
Hey.
You know what? But here's the thing, Chris, real quick. I am 59 years old. I could have retired at 56. That's why I went to school. I got educated. I got into a field that paid. I bought property, and I just stayed alive, and God has blessed me with opportunity. But the point is, when I had two professional parents, and I did not have a baby at 18. I did not buy a car.
Matt, you're a conservative. You're a conservative. You just don't know it. I appreciate you, man. Let's talk more tomorrow. It is 10:23 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Another successful launch serving as a possible human trip to the moon, but the reentry, maybe not so much. We'll tell you about it at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So just a moment ago, while we were off the air, Congressman Tim Burchett called in and wants to respond to our friend Matt or talk about what we were talking about. Is that what he said? So I said to Mason, tell Congressman Burchett that if he wants to call back at 10:36, we'll give him free reign.
Give him the floor. Have a good conversation.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Congressman Burchett's going to be calling in at
all right
10:36. I love that kind of stuff. I love it. I love it when it's more organic. I'm here for it. I honestly, I don't know what part of it he wants to comment on.
Yeah, I don't either. He kept it very vague at first. He said he just wanted to comment on the conversation at hand. So I'm very interested to see what he wants to talk about.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to that as well.
Me too.
Thanks, Congressman Burchett.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it. I love it. I love it when it's more organic.
Yeah, it doesn't seem staged. I mean, not saying that any interviews that we have here are staged, but
scheduled or like, I don't know.
It's like people have time to prepare kind of what they're going to talk about and whatnot. And this seems like a more organic conversation to have, just kind of off the cuff kind of thing.
He said he was driving through Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Based.
I love it.
And even if he wasn't in Nashville, if he's in D.C., it's like this station people listen to everywhere.
Yeah.
You can take us wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app, the 99.7 WTN app. You can watch us on Super Talk TV, on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You can find me wherever you go. I'm on Truth Social, Instagram, Twitter, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. A lot of people commenting on the members nutrition text line. I made the comment to our friend Matt. I said, Matt, you're a conservative. You just don't know it. Tim thinks Matt might be conservative-leaning libertarian on the members nutrition text line. A couple people said 2976. Tell that guy he's a libertarian, not a liberal. Listen, Matt calls in all the time.
Yeah,
and he most of the time he's disagreeing with me. And I love that.
Yeah, because it activates discussion, and that's exactly what we're here for.
I don't want this show to be an echo chamber, and I don't know. I'll hear people out. I let people talk. So I love that kind of stuff. But the conversation really started. We were talking about the prices and inflation, the Biden economy, how we're being gaslit that the economy is great, and it's spoiler alert, it's not. It's not. And you can tell me that it's great, but it doesn't show that on the in-store receipts. And I feel like we need somebody back in office that's going to get all this under control. And we're going to be talking to Congressman Tim Burchett about it momentarily after Ken Weaver's Newscast, which starts right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And now the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center has more of Middle Tennessee in a level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather tonight, moving that closer to I-65 along and west. And we got stop-and-go traffic right now in Sumner County. That is going to be Vietnam Veterans Boulevard westbound between Saundersville Road and Indian Lake Boulevard. SpaceX.
30 seconds into flight, we are feeling the rumble. We are seeing
successfully launching its Starship rocket today from Starbase in Cameron County, Texas. This is what SpaceX hopes will take humans to the moon someday. Its 2 previous tests ended in explosions. So it was a successful launch, but reports say upon entry, Mission Control lost contact with the rocket. The federal government releasing its latest report on inflation and measured year-over-year wholesale prices on the stuff we buy at the store before it gets to the shelves rose by 1.6% in February. That's the most since last September. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Members Nutrition. You know the guys at Members Nutrition. They're bringing you the best vitamins and supplements around at a fraction of the cost. Now, you've heard me talking about the Youthful Cleanse by Daily Defense, but again, Members Nutrition is bringing all sorts of quality supplements for you, and they're made in the USA, not way overseas in China. No matter what type of supplements you're looking for or you're in the market for, they have them for you. Immunity supplements, weight loss, detox, men's health, women's health, relaxation supplements. They have it all, and they are so proud of what they're offering. They want you to try it, and they're going to give you an extra 50% off your purchase of their already discounted prices. And you don't even need a promo code. The discount's going to be automatically applied at checkout. I like what they have to offer at membersnutrition.com. Everything I've tried from them has been fantastic, including the Youthful Cleanse by Daily Defense. But you should give them a try as well. Hit up their website today. 50% off your purchase happening now at membersnutrition.com. That's membersnutrition.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We're waiting for a phone call from Congressman Tim Burchett, who said he was driving through Tennessee and heard our conversation with Matt and wanted to comment on it. I'm not sure what aspect of it he wanted to comment on. A lot of people on the Super Text line were actually pretty excited that Tim was going to be calling in. I forget which texter it was on the Members Nutrition text line. Oh, here it is. 4295 said, Tim Burchett is the most based Tennessee politician. The most based. I tend to agree. I think it's pretty cool that he's calling in because he heard something and he wants to talk about it. Tim's on the line now on the Newsmaker hotline. Congressman Burchett, the people on our Members Nutrition text line are calling you the most based congressman in Tennessee.
I don't know, but I hope that's a good thing. My daughter's in the back seat with me back here. I'll have to ask her if that's a good thing or not.
I think that is a badge of honor, sir. What's going on? I appreciate you calling in.
No, I was just going to tell people that, I'm frustrated. I hear their frustration. And the reality is is they keep us down. They intentionally are spinning us into a, somebody said I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on. Well, I'm telling you right now that you've got some deep Marxist people in Washington, and they will spin us into oblivion, and they do want us more dependent on them. Either at transportation, with these electric vehicles, having the ability to shut them off by some master control. And having self-driving cars, and then public housing, public transportation, you just name it, it's all geared towards that. And you've got people like my friend AOC. She is my friend. I don't agree with her on anything. But AOC, who's publicly educated with a degree in economics. And that's who the young left-leaning voters listen to. She's like a freaking rock star. I honestly think somebody thinks that, they have an affliction, she could heal them. But the reality is, and the reason they're getting by with this, they're succeeding because everybody's down, and I'm not going to vote. It doesn't matter. Well, dadgum, get out and vote. Knoxville, I grew up in the city of Knoxville. We have an openly Marxist member of city council. And the reason that is because 15% of the population gets out and votes. We don't vote. Our preachers are afraid to preach the gospel.
Yep.
We're gutless. We are gutless.
Yep.
We're afraid to take these people on in the town square. We're afraid to take them on. I was on CNN this morning, for goodness sake, for 15 minutes. And the only reason they call me is because none of the other conservatives do it, because they're afraid they'll get yelled at. They'll talk down. Who cares? We've got to take these people on, and that's exactly what they want us to do. They don't want us to vote. They want us to hide. And, I got news. These folks are like talking tough about how they're going to, when it all hits the fan. Let me tell you, when those tanks roll down the middle of the street, that AR you got ain't going to do crap, okay? We've got to address this at the ballot box. We have got to get people out there. We got to put so many points on the dadgum board that they can't steal it from us. And right now, we're not doing that. We do a pretty good job in Tennessee, and Trump will win overwhelmingly. You'll get 61, 62 or more %. But and then we go home and we forget about. That's the one thing COVID showed us. We started looking over our kids' shoulders on what they're teaching our kids in schools across the nation, and people were alarmed. That's why your Justice Department has become armed against the citizens when they say that a mother who goes to a school board meeting and says, "Hey, I don't want you teaching my kids terrorists," in an official document. When Catholics who are pro-life are labeled domestic terrorists, they have weaponized the system against us. And the reason they've done it, we've been asleep at the switch.
Well,
they have got a plan, and they do it gradually. And, we win Trump, and then we go home. We don't elect a school board. We don't elect a city council. We don't elect a mayor. The other side sure as heck does. So I would encourage people, get out and vote, and it matters. It matters. This one for all the marbles, though. This federal, if we lose the White House, the Senate, and the House, it's all over.
Well,
it's all over.
You have a big microphone, Congressman Burchett. As far as these local races, it seems like a lot of times people get to the ballot box and it's like, I don't know who to vote for school board. I don't know who's the mayor. Are you in a position where you could start putting out endorsements in these local state races and kind of amplify that and make that known? A lot of people tend to really value what you have to say. The Members Nutrition text line lit up, calling you the most based congressman that we have in Tennessee. I think people would really value finding out from you who you approve of in these smaller races as far as school board, mayor, state reps, etc.
Well, I have a theory about that. I always say, with endorsements, you don't pick up my friends, just pick up my enemies. And that's kind of what happens. I see what happens. Our congressmen do this. They travel all over the country, some of my buddies that are in Congress, and they'll endorse people, and they don't really even know who the heck they are. I find that's and also I think that's a little almost degrading to the voters to think that they're going to vote for somebody because Tim Burchett says so. I would hope that they'd educate themselves. I don't care if you play golf with them. I don't care if they're a deacon at your church or your Sunday school teacher or choir director or whatever. If if they're not going to be conservative and they're not going to raise, if the first thing they talk about is raising your taxes, you better find somebody else. And I just think I don't play much into the kingmaker role. I appreciate you saying that I have that ability, but I would rather the locals handle their deal. But that's part of your local party too. You know, when we in Knox County, we made these races nonpartisan. They and across the state they started that when we started appointing superintendents. We didn't, they wanted to take politics out of it. They didn't take politics out of it. They just put it in the hands of 4 or 5 people and took it out of the hands of the voters. So I would hope, and I appreciate you giving that much confidence to my opinion, but
well, and I think that your answer kind of leans into the fact why we care about your opinion, because you're saying, let the locals decide. You're kind of reining in that weight that you do hold. One of the things I want to ask you while I have you on the phone, what do you think about school choice in Tennessee?
Well, I was just asked about that. I have a degree in education, and I support school choice. It's not a popular thing in some circles. It used to be the conservative thing. I worry about kids in the inner city. We don't see it as much in Tennessee as you would up, like say in Washington D.C. or Chicago or New York or Los Angeles or some of the big cities. I would hope that we don't forget the inner city kids that don't have any positive influence in their life, that are not going to take that bus to go to another school. And I worry about just, wealthy kids getting, they're not, I worry about them getting a free education. I probably need to educate myself a little bit more on it. It was funny when I was in the legislature, Lois DeBerry, a black lady who was the Speaker pro tem, Democrat, was the big proponent for it back then, which she was the one who carried the bill.
Interesting. You have a lot of people that say that the school choice is actually a globalist agenda to try and get more regulation and government control of private school and homeschooling. Do you hear that argument, and what do you think about it?
I've heard that argument. I homeschool my daughter, and as long as you don't take the dollar, you're okay. Once you take $1 from the federal government, they control it, and I can see that being. But that goes into the rules in the bill. Like I said, I haven't read the bill. I'm probably the wrong person to ask on a state issue. Right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. As far as, national politics, you hear a lot of the Democrats kind of gaslighting as they usually do. Did you hear Kamala Harris the other day saying that she's worried that Trump will weaponize the DOJ? I'll play the clip for you, and I'd love for you to react while I have you on the phone.
And that is not all. If he is reelected, the former president has openly said he intends to weaponize the Department of Justice against his enemies.
Do you think President Trump will weaponize the Department of Justice?
I don't think he'll have the constitutional ability to do that, even if the president wanted to. I think what you better take, she's trying to put words in Trump's mouth. I think what you ought to hear is what she said. She's talked about these illegals becoming legal, becoming American citizens. And she put that out in one of her own press releases as one of the highlights of things that they're going to accomplish. Because when they get in if they get in this second term and they got the House and Senate behind them, Katie, bar the door, brother. They will do every bit of agenda, hard left agenda, because this will be the 4th term of President Obama. The things that he couldn't accomplish, because obviously this guy is not running the White House.
Are you worried about illegal aliens voting in the upcoming elections? NPR says that illegals voting is a right-wing myth. We know that it happens in certain states. Are you worried about that as we get out to vote in November?
100%. You've got 10 million people in the system. I'm not so much worried about it in Tennessee because of the mail-in ballot. We don't do it like every other state does, like a lot of the other states. But I'm worried about some of these big states are 10 million people in the system. You could, literally in a couple of these elections, if you controlled the postmaster in certain wards in Illinois, you could have swayed a presidential election, and that's a fact. I tell you what, also I worry about is this latest deal with Biden and cutting all these deals with Hamas, and he because he needs that Michigan vote because that's one of the largest Middle Eastern enclaves outside of the Middle East.
Yeah, I lived outside of Detroit, and the Dearborn is basically the Muslim American capital, and the locals there affectionately refer to it as Dearbornistan. They've basically adopted the Abandon Biden movement. What do you think he's doing to secure their vote?
I think this port in Hamas saying he's going to put. He said no boots on the ground, but then they released they're going to have 10,000 soldiers over there. How are they going to do this? It's going to get Americans killed. They have a horrible, horrible record. Afghanistan was a nightmare. I was briefed on some stuff 2 days ago that I'm not at liberty to talk much about other than the fact that we just blew it. 13 Americans lost their lives. I asked the Marine sniper who had the suicide bomber in his sights twice, and he was called down by our Pentagon, and our State Department was told not to shoot the guy.
Huh.
And those are the rules of engagement. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu does not want Americans. He loves America. He understands our patriotism and how brave our fighting men and women are, but he also understands our boneheaded leadership and the war pimps we have that are running our Pentagon right now, that, their business is war, and it's very good. And they understand that our rules of engagement would get his people killed and our people killed, and he just would rather have our money, and he'd rather fight his own dadgum war.
No, it's absolutely infuriating, especially the Afghanistan stuff. And at the State of the Union, you saw the Gold Star father react in anger.
He was arrested.
He was
for
arrested.
disturbing the peace. Let him go. Heck, he's given enough for this country. His kid died needless. Shouldn't have died, a young Marine, and then the guy's brother ends up, over the grief of losing his own brother, commits suicide. The guy's lost two kids. I mean, give him a little compassion.
Seriously,
that's been a classier move. That whole speech, it was just. I mean, where do you start? Where do you finish with him saying the economy's great, inflation's down, and just the whole deal was just bogus. The whole thing was bogus, and we've take your pick, and then they bring Jerry Nadler up there, who's in his 80s, telling how that Biden is young and strong as he's ever been, or something. I was like, what in the world?
And at the State of the Union, when Biden was walking in, it was you and Andy Ogles were basically the first two that Biden saw, and there was a moment on camera where you were caught kind of whispering something into his ear. What were you saying to the president at that moment?
I was actually talking to him about Corvettes and chocolate chip ice cream. He had, and then I told him how much. I told him about my brother had a 72 Corvette with a 350, and how I peeled out in Brunswick Billiards parking lot on a date one night. And then I told him that my wife really liked peppermint chocolate chip ice cream and Corvettes. And then he said, "Can I get her number?" And then I thought, "No way, creepy old man. I'm not giving you her dadgum number." And he said, and the second time he came back, and he said, "Those new Corvettes do a 0 to 60." And there was this awkward pause, and you watch him, he puts his hand up over his mouth, and he says, and there was this long pause, and he said, "In 1 second." And I thought, 1 second? That's going to pull your eyeballs out your ear holes. And, but here's the deal. I've gone from anger to pity because he's not there. He is not there. And America needs to realize that he is not there. He is not running this thing, and it is a very, very bad situation.
No, I'm kind of with you, and I have to wonder, where's his wife at in all of this? Because I know that my wife would never send me out there if I was in that kind of a state. Is she just power hungry, or why doesn't she just bring him to the beach to hang out with the grandkids?
Yeah, I think they just love the spotlight. And I mean, it's the money spigot. I mean, good gosh, they've taken in $20 million. And the thing I can't find out is if they've paid any taxes on any of this stuff. It's just the whole thing is ridiculous. And this ability they have of not paying taxes and basically subverting justice. And the Justice Department won't even look at it. You know, we're doing business with the communist Chinese. He says that he doesn't talk to his son about any of it. And of course, we have testimony that he has. We've got phone records. We've got all this other stuff. And, you know, the lamestream media says we don't have any proof of any of this. And I'm saying, well, here it is. I mean, we have bank records. We have these suspicious activity reports. They call them SARS. I think over 100. And I know businessmen their whole life have never gotten one of those. And what those are when a bank sees that you're doing business and there's nothing transacting but cash. There's no product. You know, they say, well, what about Trump? What about Trump kids? Well, they sold crappy ties and cheap steaks, and they sell real estate. They have a product. It shows up on the tax forms. And but this bunch, it's just cash. It is just cash rolling in, and then 10% for the big guy. It rolls down.
You talk about all the evidence that's there, and I'm with you because we all kind of see it from ground level. But then you see a headline where Speaker Mike Johnson is saying that he hasn't had time to do a deep dive in the evidence. Is this impeachment going to happen, or are we just basically going to be holding our breath for this?
Well, even if it does, nothing's going to happen to Biden. We'll maybe hang an impeachment on him. I don't think you got enough Republicans with enough guts to do it. I think with Buck leaving he wasn't for us anyway on this thing, but I think you've got a few Republicans that are going to hang us out. And the question then is, should we go ahead and do it? I think we should, and just show people where we vote. That's part of the problem. These guys and gals come home and talk, "Oh, I'm conservative. I did this. I did that." Dadgummit, they don't do it. They don't, because they've never had to vote on it. That's the problem.
But what do you think in particular? What do you think in particular about Mike Johnson saying that he hasn't had any time to do a deep dive in the evidence?
I believe it. It's just so much, and it's a moving target. I don't know that he has to do a deep dive. It's not his job. It's the job of Jim Jordan in Judiciary and Chairman Comer in Oversight, the committee I'm on. So I think that's where it's going to end up, and it'll come out, and he'll make a decision. I think what he hasn't done the deep dive on is they haven't done the whip count, which means they haven't counted the votes to see who will vote for it, and then he'll have to figure out his strategy there, because are we gonna take another beating, or is he gonna let it go for a vote? Again, I say go for the vote and just make people mad and show that the Republicans don't have any guts on this thing.
I'm with you. Congressman Tim Burchett, thanks so much for calling in, man. We got like 30 seconds left. Is there anything that you want to get out to the people of Middle Tennessee before we let you go?
Two most important things you need to do in order of importance. First thing is pray. Pray for our country. We are going to lose our country. This is not some Archie Bunker tinfoil thing. This is the reality. Second thing is educate yourself and vote.
Thank you.
That's it.
Congressman Burchett, two simple rules. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. You can call in anytime, Congressman.
Thanks, brother. And you call me Tim. Thanks,
all right.
Brother.
Yes, sir. The most based member of Congress, our friend Tim Burchett. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
10:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Still got some slowdown going on in Sumner County, drivers. You've got rolling roadblocks for pothole repair. 6-minute delay there between Vietnam Veterans Boulevard and Indian Lake Boulevard. Actually, that's Vietnam Veterans Boulevard right there at Indian Lake Boulevard. Also, the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center has increased the level of risk for severe weather today in Middle Tennessee. It's now gone from a level 1 out of 5 to level 2 out of 5 for everyone along and west of 65. And right now in our nation's capital, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is Jewish, is calling for new elections in Israel to replace Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for his response to that murderous Hamas attack on October 7th.
He has been too willing to tolerate the civilian toll in Gaza, which is pushing support for Israel worldwide to historic lows. Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah.
Meanwhile, the Israeli army says it will evacuate more than 1 million Palestinian civilians to central Gaza ahead of a major assault on Rafah. That is where Netanyahu says Hamas still has 4 intact battalions, or about 4,000 fighters. He thinks if he can get them, he may end Hamas. Money news coming in. The federal government's releasing its latest report on inflation today. Measured year over year, wholesale prices rose by 1.6% in February. That's the most since last September. And the U.S. Commerce Department says retail sales rose 0.6% last month, linked in part to higher gasoline prices and an uptick in car buying. Hotel prices rose the most, along with energy costs rising 4.4% last month. Food prices saw a modest 1% increase after going down in January. I don't know who put that word modest in there, but that's not mine. And this morning, Amazon unveiling a new partnership with a pharmaceutical company, Eli Lilly, aimed at bringing medications directly to your front door.
Lilly announcing Amazon Pharmacy as a partner for its telehealth platform, Lilly Direct, meaning patients can now see a healthcare provider, get a prescription, and then get their medications delivered by Amazon without ever leaving their homes. This comes as patients say they've struggled to get these drugs.
That's Eva Pilgrim reporting, and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thanks again to Congressman Tim Burchett. He told me to call him Tim. So I'm just going to say thanks, Tim, for calling in. A lot of reaction to the interview on the Members Nutrition text line. Rachel said, best call with Tim, dadgum. Best call.
First name basis with the most based congressman.
Yep. 6766 said, Tim Burchett for VP or governor or anything of power. He's a rare, honest politician with a backbone, and he cares. I agree with all those statements. Tim Burchett is great. So a couple other comments. Somebody said, Tim Burchett is too legit to quit. Great interview, Chris. And that's 0388. They also said, tell Dan Mandis we want more Kennedy, which is my daughter. Programming note, Kennedy is on spring break, and she's gonna come in tomorrow. She's gonna join me here in the office. It's gonna be bring your daughter to work day tomorrow. So I'm gonna put her to work. We're gonna violate child labor laws. How's that sound? Based, right?
She's just guest spotting.
Yeah,
just guest spotting. It's not work.
We're gonna make her run the board.
Get her in here with Mac. Mac can take another day off.
Exactly. She's gonna be answering the phones, running the board, getting coffee. We're gonna give her the old fashioned intern treatment and put her to work.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. So Kennedy will be here tomorrow. So a lot of people look forward to Kennedy joining in studio. So we'll have her in here. Thanks again to Tim Burchett. Something I want to play before Kennedy's in here tomorrow because I don't want to expose my young 10-year-old daughter to the psychotics. You know what I mean? So to my wife, if the kids are listening, this segment's probably not for them. Joy Reid. You've heard of Joy Reid, right?
The name is familiar. Give me a little recap.
She's the psychotic host on MSDNC.
Oh, yeah.
That always screams about Orange Man being bad.
Yeah.
You know her. Everybody knows her. All right. So she was on Losing Her Mind last night, and she said, we need to take a hard look at the president's records. This is after she went on a little rant about COVID. She's bringing back COVID to besmirch Trump. That seems like that's going to be the playbook, one of the playbooks, right? They're going to say that what Biden's doing is working. He cleaned up Trump's mess. We're actually living in a great economy. And then they're going to say, remember COVID? So Joy Reid said, hey, we have to take a hard look at both of the president's records.
Trump and Biden are officially their party's presumptive nominees. So we need to take a hard look at these candidates, their records, their accomplishments, and the choice ahead of us. And yes, where they stand on the safety and well-being of every individual American.
Oh, on the safety and well-being of every individual American, she says. Now, again, she had gone on like a 30-second rant about COVID and how Trump, basically botched the response to COVID. And so she's going to lean on that for safety of Americans. But she ignores the wide-open southern border. She ignores the fact that Americans are dying every day from fentanyl because of the wide-open southern border. She neglects to bring up Laken Riley. She neglects to bring up Travis Wolf. She neglects to bring up American citizens that are harmed by the illegal aliens coming into our country every single day. That's not what she's talking about. She's talking about COVID. I mean, I'm sure it plays well with her base, the same base that are still wearing masks, but it's not going to play with me. But she says, listen, as we examine their records, we're in a unique position, which I tend to agree with because, we now have a record to look at for both of them. I tend to think it favors Trump. Joy Reid, in this unhinged rant, will try and tell us that it favors Biden. But I tend to think that in 2020, what favored Biden was the fact that he didn't have a record. He was running on Obama's record, which his base tended to like. Trump was running on a pretty strong record right up until the pandemic hit. But she says, let's look at both of their records.
We're also in a unique position to evaluate these men because both of them have been president. We can compare their actual presidencies rather than vote based on their promises. Which era do you want to relive? The chaotic, frankly, insane 4 years of crazy tweets, migrant kids ripped from their parents' arms, random fights with our allies, and 1 million bodies in the ground due to COVID?
Okay, so that's Trump, right? Migrant kids ripped from their parents' arms, with the cages that Obama built, the kids in cages myth, right? And let's also talk about, the human trafficking crisis going on our southern border that, again, Joy Reid neglects to pay any mind to. We have young migrant children. And listen, I tend to like the term illegal alien, but when it comes to the kids, I'll use the more PC term because I feel bad for them because they're being trafficked at excessive rates. Dr. Phil is going on The View, and he's talking about how they come through and they have an address written on their arm. And he's talking to Border Patrol there. And he's like, are you sending these kids to just into trafficking? And Border Patrol's like, yeah, probably. The Biden administration is facilitating human trafficking at the border. So miss me with they ripped the children from their parents' arms. How could they? How could they determine whether or not they were their parents in the first place? Because as we know, at the border, it's a lot easier to get through when you have a kid. I've seen videos myself where children are drugged, can't even wake up as they're being trafficked across the border with adults that are not their parents. So miss me with that. The psychotic, the mean tweets. Oh my gosh, how can we can't do that again. We have to get back to Joe Biden, right? Because the Joe Biden presidency has not been psychotic, has not been chaotic, as Joy Reid says.
The bodies stacked up in refrigerated trucks because the hospitals ran out of room.
Oh, the COVID stuff.
The states fighting over ventilators, the old people dying by themselves and saying their goodbyes on iPads.
I mean, again, none of those were Trump's policies, but this is what they have to lean on, right? This is what they basically campaigned on, was that Trump botched the COVID response. But, the adults are back, right? Biden's in charge. The adults are back. Let's hear what Biden offers, according to Joy Reid.
The economy literally collapsing and all of us stuck in our homes for a year. Kids having to graduate from high school and college on Zoom. Or the Biden era, where the president is old, yes, and set in his ways and some of his policies infuriating. But at least he's sane and a grown up and capable of being reasoned with and pushed to change his policies. It is a serious question.
The only thing that she could sell us on Biden is that he's sane. The same man who couldn't be charged for the documents because he's a senile old man with memory issues, right? He's a grown up, right? The guy that forced a vaccine mandate that depleted our military. He's the grown-up. The guy that botched the Afghanistan withdrawal, he's the grown-up. The guy that's basically funding the war on both sides in the Middle East. The guy that's sending billions upon billions of dollars over to Ukraine, he's the grown-up in the room. The grown-ups are in charge. The guy that's trashing our economy. The guy that calls half of the country essentially domestic terrorists. You heard Tim Burchett talking about it. You go to a school board meeting, domestic terrorist. You're pro-life and Catholic? Whoa. Calm down, buddy. You're a domestic terrorist. That's what it looks like with the grown-ups in charge.
Does anybody think that reliving the Trump era is a good idea or something America would even survive?
Yes. Yep. I put my hand up. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, I have my hand up. I'm a person who thinks that another Trump administration would be a good idea. And I think it's something that we would survive. In fact, I tend to go the opposite way. I think another 4 years of Biden is something that this country can't survive. I tend to worry if this country can survive till November under the current Biden administration. Yes. I want a Trump administration. I sure do. But, Joy Reid is psychotic, right? These are things that are already deterred. We've already proven this time and time again. She's unhinged. She's not well, and she suffers from a bad case of Trump derangement syndrome. Many such cases. And the one thing that she really has to go at Trump about is COVID. So she's going to go back to the well, blaming Trump about COVID. We are 4 years removed, right, from the pandemic. Crazy. Crazy. Trump wanted to open us back up by Easter. I just think that that's important to point out, right? I think that the mistakes Trump made, we can all agree on. Not firing Fauci. I'm not a fan of Operation Warp Speed. I think that time has shown that the vaccines were ineffective, and that's like the best case scenario. That's the best. Ineffective. I think as time goes on, we could see a lot worse. I hope that's not the case. I hope that the conspiracy theories just tend to be conspiracy theories. But, we know that the vaccines come with increased risk of myocarditis. But I'll also point out, Trump wasn't the one that it was the Democrats that were unhinged and wanted vaccine passports and wanted your job to fire you if you didn't take this experimental jab. That wasn't Trump. That was Joe Biden. But listen, in Joy Reid's world, that was all good, and everything that Trump did during COVID was bad.
Trump didn't want to deal with a public health catastrophe. He didn't want to take the blame or get bad press. So instead, he spent months pushing crack science, taking advice from snake oil salesmen instead of public health experts. He mainstreamed the anti-vax movement, which is going so strong today that we are facing measles outbreaks among unvaccinated children.
Oh, the measles outbreaks that miss me again. The measles outbreaks are at what they affectionately refer to as migrant shelters, where they're housing illegal aliens in sanctuary cities. That's where the heart of these measles outbreaks are coming from. So infuriating. Oh, he wanted to follow pseudoscience. It's funny. I saw a clip of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is like a left-wing radio guy, and I tend to like him a lot. I think he's pretty smart. But Jimmy Dore says, Trump wouldn't follow the experts. He wouldn't follow the experts. Jimmy Dore said that there's this clip. He's doing stand-up, and he's like, what other industry do you only have to follow the experts? Right? What other industry is doing your own research a crime? If you were going to buy a used car, Jimmy Dore says in this bit, and somebody said, whoa, don't do your own research. Trust the salesman. He's the expert. You look at them like they have three heads, but when it came to COVID and the jabs, that was all we could do, right? You weren't allowed to listen to any other opinions. Joy Reid. He was listening to pseudoscience.
RFK Jr. is back, embarrassing his family and running as an anti-vax presidential candidate. Trump turned against vaccines, even though it was his own Operation Warp Speed that spawned the ones for COVID. He elevated extremist politicians like Ron DeSantis.
Extremists. I don't think Ron DeSantis is an extremist. RFK's been anti-vax for quite a long time. That wasn't Trump. In fact, RFK was anti-vax before being anti-vax was cool. That's not Trump. That's the American public looking at what the media sold them in the bill of goods and saying, I don't want any more of that.
Along with junk science and disinformation and horse dewormer, fake COVID cures. And let's face it.
Oh, horse dewormer. She won't even say ivermectin because the buzzword is horse dewormer, right? This is how they attack him. They're attacking him the same way they attacked all of us during the pandemic.
The Trump administration fueled the crisis and botched America's response. And that is the main reason he was not reelected. And they knew he would lose because of it.
Oh, yeah. That was the main reason he was not reelected. I tend to think the main reason he was not reelected was because of a coordinated campaign via the media to suppress Hunter Biden's laptop story. I think that was a huge deal. The fact that media, intelligence agencies, establishment politicians were all against this guy. Before we even get into the mail-in voting, the ballot harvesting, the possible election interference, before we even go down that road. That's why he wasn't reelected. And many people will argue that if there wasn't widespread cheating, he would have been reelected. It's 11:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. Now, you know USS. You've been hearing their commercials on WTN for years. I heard their commercials on WTN before I even worked there, but I've had a chance to meet the guys that work there. Great guys. Honest, hardworking guys, proud of the work they do. And they'll tell you about the work they do. You don't know you need USS until you know you need USS. And this is the time of the year where you find that you need the guys at USS. They're your waterproofing experts. So we got rain coming in, right? This is the perfect time to check your crawl space after the rain comes through. Poke your head down there and see if you notice any standing water. If you do, you need to call the waterproofing experts at USS, United Structural Systems. You might notice some other red flags. Wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, musty odors coming up from your crawl space. Those are all signs that you need to call USS to take a look and see if you got water coming into your home. If you do, USS will come through, make a unique plan for your home because every home is going to be unique, and fix it. They have 25,000 satisfied customers that they've done this for. They've been doing it in Middle Tennessee since 1994. They're not going anywhere. So when they come up with a unique plan for you, they're not going to leave until the job is done and you're satisfied, and you won't pay for it until the work is done. But when they do leave, they leave with a lifetime guarantee, and that warranty isn't going anywhere. Even if you do, the warranty will stay with the home. That's how confident they are in the work they do. So if you're having waterproofing issues, call USS, 615-488-7855. United Structural Systems, 615-488-7855. Online at USSTN.com.
Senate committee starts looking at whether it's time to switch from a 40-hour work week to less. Details coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is 11:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pat in Clarksville has a counterpoint. A counterpoint to me or a counterpoint to Joy Reid, Pat?
Oh, it's to Joy.
Okay, perfect. I was like, I thought you were going to disagree with me. I was like, bring it.
Oh,
I was getting fired up, Pat.
Rarely do I it's a rare thing that I disagree with you.
Okay.
Well, here's my point. First of all, to be blaming Donald Trump for problems with the vaccine and handling of the virus is ridiculous, because no commanding officer or CEO of an organization knows everything and does everything. They rely on their surrounding experts, shall we say?
Yep.
So he had to rely on, well, who was it? Fauci.
Yeah.
And Fauci's the one that did junk science. He flip-flopped on the masks and everything. And there's nothing wrong with ivermectin. It's also used in dogs. But the thing is, the reason it wasn't a big sell is because it was very inexpensive. It's been around a long time, and those major big pharma companies wouldn't have made money.
100%.
Instead, they did the
Yeah, you're nailing all the points, Pat.
Well, instead they pushed the vaccine that was never really, well, how shall we say, tried, or
Tested.
They really didn't do studies or anything. And actually, I'm trying to remember the numbers now. Pfizer sold the U.S., I think it was 15 million doses. It might even have been 150. But Pfizer made $15 billion off of that vaccine. So there you go. Money talks. I've done a lot of reading on this, and my final comment has to do, this one really got me right from the beginning, the use of ventilators. The problem with the lungs, when people got COVID, it wasn't that the lungs weren't working. It was that the hemoglobin, the red blood cells, were not able to take up the oxygen. So you don't do much if you don't get oxygen. And the machine that really saves lives is the ECMO machine. And that there's like 5, I think, in the state. And a lot of people could have been saved had they had those machines.
That's interesting. I appreciate your call, Pat. I will say, I'm not an expert on the whole ventilator thing, but I do remember early in the pandemic, and you can find articles where they were saying, the ventilators weren't exactly doing the job that people thought they were going to do. And on the flip side of that, I seem to remember a president, when he thought that the ventilators were the ones to, were the thing that were going to fix things. He ramped up production when he thought there weren't going to be enough. I don't think they ended up being the answer at all, clearly, but I don't think that you could put that on Trump. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and the Storm Prediction Center over at the National Weather Service now increasing the risk for severe weather for some of us in Middle Tennessee. It's gone to a level 2 out of 5 for folks along and west of I-65 tonight. Got the full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. A Senate committee is set to look into whether it's possible to rethink what Americans consider a standard work week. The concept of a 40-hour work week dates back to the 1930s and the Fair Labor Standards Act. Now the Senate's HELP Committee, Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, set to consider legislation and hear testimony today over whether it's time to change 40 hours a week to 32 hours without any loss in pay. That's the latest news. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Sorry for the delay. Matt Murphy was informing me that his wonderful wife, Erica, has baked cookies and that she wanted to make sure that I brought some home for the kids.
Don't do that to me. He's shoving them in my face right now.
Now
They smell really good.
They looked good. Was there M&Ms in some of those cookies?
Yeah, I see some M&Ms. Looks like seasoning salt on there. Some
salt?
Like sweet and salty.
There's pretzels in there.
Ooh.
They're called kitchen sink cookies.
Kitchen sink cookies. You've gotten me way off track. Now I'm just...
We're not even focused on the topic at hand.
Just thinking about Matt's wife's cookies. All right, well, I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely going to grab some. Thank you, Matt Murphy. This is the perks about working here.
See, I like it, but also I'm on a diet right now. I'm trying to cut back on that stuff.
Bro, don't do it.
I need to, man.
Everything in moderation, including moderation, my friend.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I've had my cheat meal of the week. I can't risk it, man.
Come on. All right. Well, I'll take your share.
Yeah, go for it. Tell me how it feels. I'll live vicariously through you.
Sure, I really will. I'll take it. I'll take your share. All right. So what do we want to talk about? 615-737-9986. We were talking about Bidenomics being a failure. We talked about Joy Reid being psychotic. We had Congressman Tim Burchett join the show because he was driving through Nashville and he was listening.
Which, by the way, I got that all edited up. It will be on the website right after the show today.
Perfect. You can find it on the podcast. If you ever miss a little bit of the show, you miss a lot. And the podcasts are always available for you on Apple and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, or 997WTN.com. So that way you can share it with your friends. Please subscribe, hit the like button, do all the things. Find us on Super Talk TV, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Am I missing anything? YouTube. I did.
Yeah, the big red one, whatever
I
that is.
know. I probably got us a strike talking about the old pokey a little while ago.
It's whatever.
I'm still waiting. I feel like if anybody's going to get us a strike on YouTube, it's going to be me.
It probably. But,
Chances
I mean, hey, worth it at this point. You know,
I feel like it's a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Like, kind of, you know what I mean?
We're proud.
Like, I would. I'd be like, you're welcome.
You know how
you get called into the office, like, you got us a strike on YouTube, I'd be like, you're welcome.
Yeah, you want another one? I'll get you another one.
Yeah.
So. It was like, get one of those, you know how YouTube sends their users plaques or whatever if they have a certain number of subscribers?
Oh.
You should get the strike plaque.
We should, dude. There should be a strike plaque. They would be giving them out way too much.
Yeah, probably.
It wouldn't be, it's not a sustainable business model.
But being the pioneer for that, I think you should get one.
That'd be pretty cool.
Be cool just to put up.
I don't think I'd be the pioneer.
I mean,
here.
You'd be one of the notable ones here for sure.
Locally.
Yeah.
I guess. Like, what do you want to be known for? Well, I'm the guy that got us strikes on YouTube. I guess it's better than being known for being the senile old man who can't remember things but means well. Mike Johnson was actually talking about the president. He was on with Jesse Waters last night. Jesse asked him if the president is mentally fit.
Jesse, I've spent a little bit of time with him, and I'm sad to tell you that I don't think he is. And the reason I'm sad is because we are projecting weakness on the world stage. All of our adversaries around the world can see and follow exactly what you and I and the American people are. We have a weak president, and that's why our enemies are acting so provocatively right now. This is not a game. It's really not a laughing matter. It's a dangerous situation, and this election in November can't get here soon enough.
No, it can't get here soon enough. It's kind of, it's in line with what Tim Burchett said a little while ago when he called in. He just feels bad at this point. Like, he doesn't like the president, but he feels bad that this guy is still in the office, and there's nobody in his family to pull him out of there. I made the comment to Tim that my wife would never let me sit through a gig where I'm losing my mind and I'm looking as bad as the president looks. She just wouldn't allow that, especially if you had that much cash flow, you had that many grandkids, and you had a house on the beach. What benefit does it serve you to continue down this path? And you know, Tim Burchett told us he thinks that they just really care about power and they don't want to turn off the spigot. His words. But Mike Johnson's on with Jesse Waters, and He's saying he feels bad. The president doesn't seem mentally fit. And Jesse asked him, well, you spend time with the president, right? You're the Speaker of the House. You spend time with him. What do you see when you're with him one-on-one, when you spend time with him? Oh.
I don't mean to be uncharitable here. Look, we respect the office, right? And people can't change how they age. Everybody ages differently. I'm just telling you that President Biden is not on his A game. Can I say it that way? I mean, he's in person. He's rather slow, and obviously his staff handles him very carefully.
He's not on his A game. He's rather slow, and his staff handles him. That, to me, is a huge red flag. He has handlers. Like, the president of the United States should not have handlers. You know what I mean? That's what you expect for, I don't know, like a child actor. Well, okay, I guess we definitely have an actor in the seat, right? Who has the mental capacity of what some would say is a child, but handlers for the president of the United States.
For more than 6 weeks, I requested a meeting with the president one-on-one. The Speaker of the House and the President of the United States should be able to have a meeting. I needed to talk to him about very serious classified matters regarding national security, and of course the border as well.
I think he's talking about the Russian space nukes there, right? Do you remember that? How quickly that story disappeared from the news. Does anybody talk about Russian space nukes anymore? Have you heard anything else about Russian space nukes? Are they in the room with us right now? Where are the Russian space nukes?
They're hiding in the corner. I see them over there.
Did we give the money to Ukraine? Are they not going to send Russian space nukes now?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. It's driving me nuts how they just kind of swept it under the rug so
Never
casually.
mind. Russian space nukes. No big NBD, baby. Don't worry about it. But he says, I'm trying to get a meeting alone with the president. I'm the Speaker of the House, and I'm trying for 6 weeks to get a meeting alone with the president, even if it's not about the Russian space nukes. That's just where my head went, but it could be about the furniture in the Oval Office. I don't care what it's about. He's trying to get a meeting alone with the president.
They couldn't arrange that meeting. They wouldn't arrange that meeting. When he finally relented, he invited 5 others to join us. So, there was the vice president was there, and Chuck Schumer, and Mitch McConnell, and Hakeem Jeffries. I think that these two offices, the persons who hold these two offices, need to be able to communicate more regularly, and that's been difficult with this president. And frankly, I think it's because they don't want to put me in a room with him alone. They're maybe afraid of what he might say if he goes off script. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. These are just the facts that everybody can see.
No, those are the facts, and we can all see it, and it's actually quite alarming. I want my Speaker of the House and the president to be able to meet in private, just the two of them. But it doesn't seem like that's capable of happening with the current resident-in-chief. And Mike Johnson makes the point that they're worried he could go off script. Mike Johnson makes the point that his handlers won't allow it. That should be terrifying to every American citizen, that the handlers, all right, take a step back. It should be terrifying that the president has handlers. It should be equally as terrifying that the president's handlers won't let him have a one-on-one meeting with the Speaker of the House because they're afraid he could go off script. That is terrifying. And there's things to talk about.
It's terrifying that it's a script, something that he has to try and focus and memorize to make sure he doesn't screw anything up.
And we've seen the pictures of him when he goes out and about.
Yeah.
He has note cards for everything now. And in big, bold letters, it'll be, take your seat. Introduce yourself. Introduce the next person. Remember, that person's going to be joining via Zoom. He needs to have his hand held throughout the entire day, through everything he does. And when he gives a speech like the State of the Union, they have to jack him up with some kind of drug cocktail. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it reminds me of this soundbite that we got here, which is the...
Damn it! Who typed a question mark on the teleprompter? For the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
Yep.
It's just so... that's a comedy. And it's the fact that our politics is a comedy now is ridiculous.
Well, and when you get him alone, or when you get him on stage, right? You don't get him alone. But when you get him on stage, he's at the Boys and Girls Club in Milwaukee yesterday, and he says things like, I helped the Boys and Girls Club during the crime sprees when I was a senator.
Look, to communities everywhere and at this Boys and Girls Club, by the way, I've been a gigantic supporter of Boys and Girls, just the biggest in the country. But when I was a senator, I provided a lot of money during the crime sprees were going on for Boys and Girls Clubs.
What? What is he talking about? Can we just have a little bit more context, Mr. President? I don't know if there is any context with the president. And he tries to make these points. So he's at the Boys and Girls Club in Milwaukee, and he's trying to play the race card. Let's be perfectly honest. That's what he's doing there. That's why he's in Milwaukee. The Democrats know that they're losing the black vote. And it's not just me saying this. There's black female voters that are being asked about this. It was on Newsmax, I believe. And they're like, no, we're going to vote for Trump.
Trump versus Biden, who are you going to vote for?
Trump.
And why?
I like cheap gas.
Trump. I'm going to be honest, Trump, because I feel like he did do a lot for us. I feel like Biden did more for, the immigrants. No offense to the immigrants, but, yeah.
So that's the temperature of the voters. And you can tell that last one is a recovering Democrat because she goes, no offense to immigrants. No offense to immigrants, right? So she is a recovering Democrat. She's internalized some of those talking points. But Biden's in Milwaukee. He's trying to play the race card because he knows he's losing that support in those communities. So he's trying to talk about redlining, and he's trying to talk about highways being built through black neighborhoods. But when he talks, he can't, right? So this is what it sounds like when he's trying to make those points to play the race card.
There are also cities all across America where highways used to be. And they, along with redlining, they disconnected entire communities.
There's also cities in America where highways used to be, along with redlining. It's like even when he's trying to play the race card, which is like a go-to for Democrats, he's epically failing. And make no mistake about it, he is trying to play the race card.
If I can digress for 1 second, look. I've been very involved for a while. I know I look like I just arrived, but all kidding aside, I didn't realize, even though I was deeply involved initially in the civil rights movement that got me involved to run for the first place.
Oh, I was deeply involved in the civil rights movement. I also eulogized Robert Byrd, but hey, different story, different strokes, different folks. But I'll leave you with this. Joe Biden wants to let you know inflation, it's the lowest out of any country in America.
Wages are rising faster than prices, and now we have among the lowest inflation rates of any country in America, and we're still fighting to lower it even further.
Yep, lowest inflation rate out of any country in America. It's 11:49 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Hey, you heard us talking earlier about the importance of getting involved with the school boards and fighting in these local fights, these local battles. Well, if you don't know where to start, I have an opportunity for you to kind of get your feet wet. It's the Learn Right Summit. It's happening April 19th and 20th at the JW Marriott in downtown Nashville. Now, the Learn Right Summit is basically going to help you, as the parent, empower yourself with knowledge and tools to be able to advocate for your kids' educational needs. That's what the Learn Right Summit is about. Now, it's designed for passionate parents who want to elevate the education system. It's designed for people that want to run for school board or people that are already in the school board, where you can kind of immerse yourself in these discussions, in these different workshops, thought-provoking panels that range from school safety, which is huge, to transgender ideology being pushed on your kids and how to combat that at your local level. You're going to be able to form these connections with other like-minded individuals right here in Middle Tennessee and establish that network and get organized. See, the left does a great job of getting organized. As conservatives, we severely lack in that department. But what this is going to do is it's kind of trying to fix that, right? We're not going to fix it overnight, but it's things like this, the Learn Right Summit, that's going to point us in the right direction. We're going to be able to engage in dialogues, exchange ideas, build those alliances that will strengthen the foundation of our shared commitment to education excellence. So if you're looking to be a school board member, this is for you. The summit is also going to have some fantastic speakers like Riley Gaines, Chairman Mark Green, Byron Donalds, and more. I don't really lead with the speakers because I think what we need to be leading with at the Learn Right Summit is empowering parents, because that's really what it's about. And we want you to go. You can purchase tickets right now to the Learn Right Summit, which is happening April 19th and 20th. The website is leadershipinstitute.org/LearnRight24. Super long, I know. Let me say it for you one more time. It's leadershipinstitute.org/LearnRight24. Plus, if you use the promo code, you can get 25% off the tickets. The promo code is LearnRight24. The website, one more time, leadershipinstitute.org/LearnRight24. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in studio by Matt Murphy. What's up, Matt?
You're a funny guy, Chris.
I like to laugh.
I don't, not me. It's all yelling, screaming on my show.
I think you like laughing more than you're willing to admit.
I do. I don't like being known as a fun lover.
No, that's not on brand for you.
Crotchety curmudgeon.
But secretly, I want everybody to know that Matt Murphy he walks with a sense of joy that is unmatched by many.
That's not true.
He almost
unmatched by like 4.
He almost skips into the studio every day. I wouldn't call it a direct skip, but there's definitely a bounce to your step.
I have angry resting face, and so about 28 times a day, people ask me the same question. You know what the question is?
You okay?
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Exactly right.
I've asked that question before. I'm guilty of that.
You okay? Yes, I'm okay.
You all right, bro?
I promise I'm all right. I did a podcast with a friend of mine from Birmingham where I did, talk radio for 20 years a couple of weekends ago. And unbeknownst to me, somebody told me that he named the podcast, Matt Murphy is not as angry as you think. I'm like, what?
I've heard about these podcast things, and I think they're a fad.
You know what? Just like the internet, easy come, easy go. By the time that we've moved on to the next thing, we'll have our podcast room ready.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I've heard that they're waiting on furniture.
That's what I've heard, too.
We have extra chairs.
They're waiting on nice sofas. They're going to create in that room. You've seen the room? They're going to create like
I don't even know what it is.
I'm not knocking it. I mean, it's going to be nice when it happens, but apparently there's a backlog on sofas.
Should we just
reporting the news?
Do we blame China?
Well, let's blame China. Why not?
I think that's the easy.
They're not manufacturing them quick enough for us.
That's the easy route.
These little. They're too busy building the little phones that we're also frustrated about.
Sneakers.
Little sneakers. and non-members nutrition pharmaceuticals and whatnot.
This is true.
That's why you and I talk about members nutrition all the time.
Facts.
You want USA people making your medicine, not Chinese people.
You don't want it. You need it.
Well, and I said it yesterday on the TikTok thing. It's so odd what our political elites decide to be so concerned about. We're not concerned about the fact that 90% of our pharmaceuticals come from China.
Nope.
Apparently not.
Nope.
We're not concerned about Chinese balloons, spy balloons,
police stations, biolabs.
Yeah, these Chinese, what is it? Those institutes that have popped up on college campuses around.
The fact that we let them celebrate their New Year's in February.
What?
Yeah.
Come on.
That's what I'm saying.
A line too far. Anyway, we've got Gino Bolso coming up at 2:00 to talk about some activity going on in the General Assembly. And we have Gary Palmer, who is in leadership, Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, an old friend of mine from Alabama, to defend their vote on TikTok. So,
I like it.
Yeah, we'll do that today.
Ask him about lemonade iced tea.
I will.
Please do.
I will. The combo.
Yeah, he's famous for it. Also, I have great news for you.
Okay.
ABC, not happening.
What?
We got the main man back there.
Yet
got
another
Mr. J.
reason
Harper.
I love it when Mac Moore's not here. Yet another.
Everybody loves it. We've been having a great day. You know how many times we mentioned Mac? That was the first time.
You go, Fleming.
Do new records.
Oh, we love you, Mac. All right. Mac will be back from his sports ball game tomorrow. Matt Murphy's up next. Have the best show. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.